Hi, everyone.
How are you? I
And I
didn't.
did it this time. I started it out this time,
You
Tracy.
did, and you didn't even have to be nosed to do it.
I chose not to do the nose.
Okay.
So sorry.
I am trying to be an adult.
Thanks.
And after last week's topic, you know more about me.
She's Missy. You are.
I'll stay immature. Thank you.
Yeah. Trying not to be Tigger, trying to be a little more mature than Tigger. I'm trying to put on my Kanga outfit today.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Well,
yeah. So, today we're going to talk about when something needs to be picked out and then different methods you can use to pick out stitches on quilts.
because unpicking is a skill. Unstitching is a skill. There we go.
And it turns us into Eeyore.
It does.
Maybe a little grumpy.
So, one of the reasons you would have to pick out stitching is if you have bad tension. And I did a flyby on my store today, meaning that I ran in, did some stuff, ran out, right? Wasn't there for very long. One of my renters was getting ready to put a queen size quilt that she had just loaded on, quilted about 12 inches of. I mean, like she'd quilted that much of the quilt, guys, and had bad tension. She was just going to take it off, go rip it out, and bring it back another day. And I'm like, let's just rip that out on the frame real quick. It'll take me 2 minutes to do,
Right.
and you can leave with a quilted quilt today because a queen size quilt is going to take you about 30 minutes to load, right? So why take it off the frame at this point? And I showed her how to pick out on the frame because I didn't want her to leave at that point. I wanted her to get the quilt done. She's a very good quilter. She's been running for years, but she just got her Eeyore came out. And she was like, yeah, I want to deal with this. I don't want to pick it out. I'll deal with it another day.
Right.
So I picked it out for her real quick. Now, the great thing about when your tension's not good, it picks out super easy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing I was thinking about. Like, she looked at the quilting and was like, something's just not right. It didn't look right on the top. So she put her hand underneath it and was like, oh, bad tension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we tested the tension to begin with. Not really sure what went south there because I wasn't there when the tension was actually tested. She shouldn't have had the issue at all, right? But she did, so we fixed it, right? It would have been a much longer process had we waited until she had to pick out an entire row or an entire zone, right, of quilting. Yes, ma'am.
I said I've done that.
Yeah. Here, we were talking about this earlier. My honest belief is that if you have a quilt that has just not been friendly to you and you've had to pick out multiple times, let's say, and it is still inside your store, that issue that's going on is contagious and the rest of your customer quilts get it too. And you end up picking out stuff on one quilt after another. It's a cascading situation that happens. And I can't explain why. I can just tell you that we've had times that we've been picking out 3 entire quilting jobs at the same time because we just didn't stop.
Bad
Right?
mojo.
And that's part of it. We're having an issue, right? It was tension on all 3 quilts, different tension issues on all 3 quilts, but they were all done on the same machine. So what's the common denominator? There was something wrong with the machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I walked in because they're taking off quilt number 3 to do it. And they're like, we don't even know what it is. And look at the side of it and go, well, it's not threaded right, guys. And those are typically the flybys I do, just so that you know. I mean, my staff is completely used to me being there for less than a minute, telling them it's not threaded right, and I'm gone. Right? And they're looking at the 3rd quilt they have to pick out going, we really don't like her right now. Which is honest, right? I try really hard to stay and at least help them pick some of it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like today I had to come and talk to you guys, so I didn't have time. Right? I did take care of the customer. It was quick. I mean, literally, it was like a 2-minute pick out job. But that's not always the case. So when do we pick stuff out? I think that's what we should cover first. Bad tension, obviously, it's going to come out if it's bad tension.
Bad tension. A mistake that happened on where we started it, maybe, and especially with my renters, if they went the wrong direction instead of the other direction, we'll help them pick that out.
So if they're like doing a pantograph and they stitch the wrong way, so they're stitching over themselves, right? Design not correct, quilt path making a mistake, or your computer system making a mistake.
Yeah.
And quilting things over each other, too close to each other, at a diagonal, right?
And I just recently had a quilt that the mother or the family friend made it for the bride, and it was a beautiful turquoise quilt with mostly white. She wanted dark turquoise. And I did one row and I called her and said, yeah, no. I think this would be a big mistake. And there was a couple of issues. Like there was a little bit of thank goodness there was a tension issue. You know what I'm trying to say? Because then we took it out and said, can we try a soft turquoise? That looks good in both. And she said, yes.
It meets in the middle.
Yeah.
And I would say that's a lesson. It takes a long time for you to feel confident when someone drops something off and they go, I want this color thread. And you're like, yeah, no, you don't. Right.
Yes.
And I have that confidence. I'm sure the two of you have that confidence too. But for those of us that have staff checking in quilts, the staff is going to write down the number they tell them. Right. At least mine is. They're not going to question them too much. They're going to say, okay, she said she wanted this color glide. And that's what they're going to write down. And then I'm going to look at it and go, maybe no. Right. And send the client an email and say, okay, so this is a puddle of that color on your quilt. And then here's something in between the two puddled on your quilt. Are you sure you want the darker color? Right. Typically they know if I'm asking them, are you sure that I'm saying you don't want the dark, don't do it. Right.
But then we have Tracy who gets to pick a color all together. It's all good, right, Tracy?
I do all the choosing for my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but you've at times picked colors you didn't like.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but I've had stuff where I've sort of questioned myself as it, you know what I mean? You question it as it, and if I start something and I think no, don't like that, or custom quilting, doing a motif in a certain, I really want to use this variegated thread, and I stitch it out and I think I don't like it. I don't like the thread colors or, the way the variegation moves or whatever. I'll pick that stuff out. I'd rather pick it out than not like it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not always just a tension reason why you would take something out.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not. I mean, there's times that we've started quilting and I was like, really? She asked for, animal crackers panto on that very formal quilt? And they've looked again and went, oh, that was the next quilt that had animal crackers. Right. So we had to pick it out just because we put the wrong design on the quilt.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens at times.
Oh, sure. We're all human, right? Yeah.
And there's times I've gotten an entire quilt done. And even if with me saying, are you sure you want it? And are you really sure you want that pantograph on there? Right. The customer then sees it and goes, oh, yeah, that's not what I really thought it was going to look like.
Ooh.
And then you have an entire quilt to pick out. And you have a choice to make. Like, do you make the customer happy and requilt it? Or do you just say, here's your quilt? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And typically what I'll do is say, okay, so we did exactly what you asked us to do. If you're willing to sit here and help us pick it out, we'll be happy to requilt it for you.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're going to have skin in this game in picking it out.
And you don't charge them to pick it all out, because there's nothing wrong with the quilting. They just don't like the design.
It depends. No, it's going to depend on the client, how long they've been a client, right? I do things for people who've been clients for me for a really long time, because they don't get discounts and stuff like that. I will do a little bit more for them than I would someone who it's their first quilt that they bring in, especially if we've, voiced our questioning when they've done stuff.
And they're not a prolific complainer.
Right. If I've been quilting for someone for 10 years and they have never complained about anything and they just went, oh, that was a bad decision on my part, I'm going to probably pick it out for them and help them. Right. but I'm going to ask them to help me pick it out. I mean, it costs me money to have people sitting there and picking stuff out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've got tricks, right, on how to pick things out. So, yeah.
The other thing when I'd pick out is if the pantograph was not spaced correctly.
Yeah. That's kind of a mistake that I made or the computer made, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as much as we don't want to say it happens, it happens. So, you just if they bring something back, you just fix it, right? That's all you can do.
Folds on the back is another reason we'll take out.
Folds on the back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes pleats on the front too, depending on what I've had to, there should have been one or not, right? Mm-hmm. Typically, if I think something's going to pleat, I'm going to tell a customer up front immediately it's going to pleat. But if I get a pleat in it and it shouldn't have a pleat in it, then I'm going to pick it out and try to make it right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But sure. Pleats on the back always come out. Yeah, almost always. If it's okay, so if you get a pleat that's completely straight across the backing, which can happen at times, and the backing is already pieced, sometimes you can just whip stitch it down, and people don't realize.
Oh.
So I've done that on 1 or 2 quilts, but guys, I've been quilting forever, and I've only done it on 1 or 2 quilts the entire time I've been quilting. Right. So most of the time I'm going to take it off and make it right.
Right. So do you like to pick on the frame or off the frame?
Do you want to take that one, Tracy?
I'll usually do it on the frame.
Mm-hmm.
I find having it on the frame gives me a third, fourth hand, so I can just focus on what I'm doing, because I tend to use the rotary cutter, and I it's called skinning. You can also use one of those mustache or face fluffy trimmers. I showed it in one of our lives. I've got them here.
So, yeah.
They're in the beauty aisle at the Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever grocery or whatever drugstore you have in the country you're in. Yeah, they're a beauty tool though. They work good, but I'll grab the rotary cutter first, always. I don't do so well with an actual seam ripper, like your typical clover seam ripper. I'm not good with them. I'd rather use a rotary cutter.
When I do use them, I grab the top thread and I get an eyelash from the back thread. I just cut the eyelash and just keep ripping the top thread and cutting the eyelash. And that's how I actually ripped it out today, because it was so small, right? Just pick it up, rip the eyelash, and it just kind of.
I play a game with that too. I play a game to see how long I can make that top thread get.
Yeah.
That's how I entertain myself when I'm unstitching.
They laughed at me because it was wrapped all around my hand. I mean, I had almost the entire top thread wrapped around my hand by the time I got done.
Same.
I do that with little snips too. I've got my small sharp nose snips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
I'll just chase the thread,
as opposed to doing this with your wrist. So it's the snips can be a little bit more ergonomically correct, and they make snips that instead of being curved have a hook on one blade, so you can get under the stitch and then cut.
Fiore has those.
Yeah, Fiore has them.
Yeah, Fiore. Fiore.
Yeah.
Fiore,
like the those. I have a pair here, and they feel they're too big. They're too cumbersome or something. So I've got the how do you say it? Fiore.
Yeah,
I think it's just FAMORE.
The steel that's like multicolored.
Titanium. They're titanium.
They're really pretty, and they're quite small.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite snips. But I also use my thread pick. My thread pick is my favorite tool.
Yeah. So rainbow titanium curved snips from More is what Tracy's using. Yeah. And then they have steel ones that have a little hook on them. Hook that are straight bladed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're both great. They're both great tools. And they both work really, really well. Mm-hmm. I'm with Tracy. I use a rotary cutter. Most of the time, if I am picking out, I will pick out on the frame. If we didn't find the issue until it was off the frame, the next quilt is probably already quilting, at which point we do it off the frame. But I always pick out from the back.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I'm picking out, if I'm picking out a lot of stitching, I will take the batting and the backing, or the batting and the top, and flip it over the back roller, and then grab the batting and the top and cut against the backing. Because if I'm going to nick something, I would rather nick the back of the quilt than the top. So I'm trying to make sure if I have to sacrifice something, it's going to be the backing. Because most of the time I can get more of the material to do the backing.
Right. For sure. Much more forgiving.
Yeah.
So we just had one, which is a beautiful paper piece, you know, the diamonds, the jewels, 84 by 84. And the pantograph grew on me a little bit both ways. And then we had a very dense quilting. So that one came off. And I do have a staff person who really doesn't mind picking out. So she sat there and was happy as a clam doing what she wanted to do. I mean, she doesn't really mind. So
mine don't mind picking out if there's not a renter there, because they'll sit back at the tables and somebody's quilting on the machine back there and somebody's picking out, and they're both talking and working at the same time.
Exactly.
And they don't mind it, right? But if there's renters there and they're having to jump up and down and do two things, like today we only had 2 renters. So, typically we have
before the storm.
So we have 3, or we have 2 machines in production and 2 renters, right? So today we had 1 machine just sitting idle. And, but those 2 renters, the one that had the stitching issue, not a big deal. Yeah. Okay. The other one needed a lot of hand holding.
Sure. Well, and after you stitch, to be honest with you, it is very normal to feel skittish.
Oh, the one that had the problem was fine. Once it was out, she quilted that whole quilt in it was a queen size quilt and it was done in an hour and a half. So no, she had no problems at all. Once we got the tension balance, she has quilted with us for so long. It was just done. Right. My argument was, you're going to come back and load this again. You're just taking too much of your time up. Let me make this quicker for you. Right. Because by the time we got it off the frame, it would be halfway quilted the way she quilts. The other renter that took a lot of hand holding was on QuiltPath. So we've just started quilting. We've just started renting our computer systems. We started in July teaching people how to use them. And we have a couple people that just walk in. It's no big deal. They load their stuff and they go. Like, they need no help at all. They are amazing.
That's awesome.
But then we have a couple people that I don't know that they'll ever get it. Right. So we're basically quilting the quilts with an audience at that point.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about renting out my QuiltPath system.
I'm with you, Tracy.
I've had a few people ask, and
it's something we're going to have to.
I feel like I'm quilting it like I would, it's getting quilted as if I'm quilting it for them.
Yeah, you're not making as much money, and you're quilting. You're basically doing a spectator sport for them, right?
And it's more work. And I've also wondered what is the customer going to do while the rows are stitching? Like,
talk to you.
But I can't do that.
Or talk to your other renters, which
they can't.
I can't.
So. Yeah, that's something else that we're still new to this. So it was always my fear before I did this, that it was going to be more work than than us just doing it. And it is for a lot of our customers. I haven't come to terms with how we're going to address that. Right. Because if it continues to be more work for us, I don't know what I'm going to do. Right.
I don't want to do it.
Well, I mean, Tracy, you and I have had many, many conversations about this over the years. And that I was even like, I'm not doing that. I'm not running my quilt paths, mostly because my quilt paths were working. Right. And I have to say, for the couple that are doing it and doing it well, it was worth it. I just don't know how to address the situation of people not being able to handle the computer system. Like, I don't do Windows. I don't understand what you're telling me to push. Right. And then you find out for them to send an email, like, their grandkids have to come in and help them. And I'm like, this is, I I also want to be a place that people feel comfortable and they like coming, right? So I want my staff to help them. So I'm putting, it's just it's not a bad situation. I don't want to say it's a bad situation. It is an interesting situation that I'm still trying to learn from.
You're still navigating. It's all new.
It's very new. And it's amazed me, like several of my renters have no problem at all quilting a pantograph with the system. Like they took one class on it and they've probably quilted 15 quilts at this point. It's only been 2 months, right? So
yeah,
that makes it worth it to me because all of a sudden, that's a lot of income coming in. So do you want to turn away that income either?
Yeah.
Right. So it's something we're all going to have to think about in the future because all of us have multiple quilt paths, all 3 of us, right? That's something we're going to have to think about at some point.
But back to unpicking.
Back to unpicking.
Because that's the most topic of the Jack the Ripper, the thing we all love the most. We all need to learn. When you learn how to sew, you need to learn how to rip, right?
Yep. Sorry for the Doug the dog.
I know. You did.
Sorry. So unpicking. It's not, there's lots of things you can also look at there that like the dermaplane razors that Tracy was talking about, electric mustache trimmers. There's actually some that are stitch cutters that are electric.
Dye makes one that has a real tiny tip on it, so you don't have the bigger tip. You have a real just tiny tip, so it's just specifically for the quilting undoing, not the piecing.
So it's how you feel with an electric razor being against your customer quilts. So I'm not going to tell you I've never seen a hole with one of those. I've seen holes with rotary cutters. I've seen holes that have been made with regular
stitch rippers.
Yeah, be careful.
So
be careful.
It's a slow process.
It is. And I don't do that on days that I'm having a bad day. Like, I'm not like, okay, so I've had a really bad day doing whatever, so I'm going to sit here and rip this out and it's going to be therapeutic.
That's not the right day.
Yeah, there are days that you do not rip stuff out. You just set it down and do the next thing.
Right.
Like, I would
backtrack for that snowball. That's helping that snowball grow of all the things that are going to give you anxiety that day.
Yeah.
It's like that self-sabotage. Ooh, let's see just how horrible I can make this day by piling all the poop sandwiches into my mouth at the same time.
Right.
Well, and that's how we ended up with 3 full quilts, 3 queen size quilts that had to be ripped out at one time. Yeah. Right? It's because we didn't stop and try to figure out what the issue was. We just kept going.
Right.
Definitely after quilt number 1, I would have looked.
Right.
Quilt number 2, I definitely would have quilt. There's no way I would have gotten to the bottom of quilt 3 at that point.
Right.
Right. So, and it's learning stuff, right? It's all learning lessons, and they thought they had checked it. They thought they had checked everything. And I hate being the person that walks in and goes, it's not threaded correctly.
Right.
Right. And so during my roadshow last week, Lenny started doing this thing where it would stitch for a little while and then it would not stitch for an inch and then it would pick up stitching again.
Oh, the best.
Holding the thread at the bottom. So I looked at my customer, the lady, and said, okay, so what's going on is that there's a burr down in the hook area somewhere that's holding the top and bottom thread down there so that it can pick up stitching again. I was like, we're just going to find the burr. Right. So Melissa, being who she is, she found the burr. She retimed the machine, took the hook off, fixed the burr, put it back on, retimed the machine. Everything is going well. And then she can't get tension to balance. Well, when it was doing all this stuff where it was picking the thread up and stopping it, it got caught on, the screw right above the first thread hole or thread guide right above the spool. It was wrapped around it. And she was like, I looked at it. It's threaded correctly. And I looked at the side of the machine and took a picture of it and sent it to her. And I was like, so the first thread guide has gotten pulled up, so it's not over the spool hole anymore. So it's wrapping around this thread guide. She sent me the very first picture I ever texted to her about her machine, way back when she was a customer, when she first got her Lucy, right? And said, that is the first thing you told me. The very first thing.
Yeah.
Is that my thread guide wasn't in the right place.
But see, thread is a beast.
Sometimes, oh, sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I was gonna say thread is a beast. It's its own game. It's its own game added to the machine of quilting. And what were you gonna say, Tracy?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say sometimes it's our nature to always overthink and think it's something huge when it's something so simple and so small and so in our face that we don't even see that.
Well, right. We skip over the easy stuff and go straight to, like, it did need to be retimed and it did need to have the burr.
Yes.
That was what was causing the skips, the skip of 4 or 5 stitches and picking back up. But so she did the technical problem, the technical situation flawlessly, right? But then, it's just funny because I'm like, I think because we talk to so many new people, all 3 of us, right? Talk to so many new users. We go back to those easy things, like the really obvious easy ones that don't jump out and say, "Hey, look at me," right? And I just thought she thought it was absolutely hilarious that it was. She's like, "I should have known that. It was the first thing you told me," and I'm like, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever you got your machine, right?
It's like one of these things. Where are my glasses? Why is everything fuzzy? I can't find my glasses.
One of my staff members. Oops.
I'm talking about fuzzies. Oh, dang.
I am. You're not. No, wow. It really is bad. It might come back. It might not. Okay. Every once in a while, if I move around, there we go.
There we go.
Focus it on my husband's computer. It's amazing to me how long it can take to balance tension, right? Because it's typically an under 5-minute job. Like, I don't want anybody suffering more than 5 minutes. If you guys have issues more than 5 minutes, like, get a hold of one of us because you've added another kind of tension, right? So the fact that she was trying to get it to work and couldn't get it to work, it just amazes me because she balances tension on those machines every day she works. Like 4 machines every day she works, has them all up and running. And Lenny, she said, Lenny is just showing Lenny's derriere and doesn't want his tension balance today. So I was like, oh, I'm out about. I'll stop by the showroom real quick because it was at night, right? And I walked in and I looked at it and went, Lenny's thread guide isn't in the right place, right?
It's simple. So, and you're in the throes of the moment. So she didn't see it. You were not in the throes of the moment. You had new eyeballs on it, and it makes such a big difference.
Right. And I think it helps both the 2 of us, right? Help people on the phone better because I can laugh at. They catch me every once in a while on it, right? They'll go, interesting choice not having that under the shepherd's hook, Angela. And I'm like, I just wanted to see if you were paying attention. Right. It's like,
good recovery.
Yeah, well,
just testing you all, not me. Not me.
Not me. It's not. I mean, trust me, I didn't just quilt a half a quilt that way. The good thing is, if it's not under that, it's nasty and it comes right out. Yeah. I'm always okay. They laugh at me because if tension's bad, I'm like, sure, I'll pick that out because it comes out so fast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's when you have perfect tension and you have to pick something out, and that quilt is made of something like printed fabric or shot cloth, right? The stuff that's like yellow in one direction and blue in the other, and it makes green fabric. That doesn't pick out well. Right? Homespuns don't pick out well, right?
Linens pick out well.
Be sure quilts where you've quilted over the plastic. Yeah, you're going to have holes in those forever, right? So for me, if it's bad tension and it's coming out easy, great. It's when I know I'm going to have a problem because of the materials used or the tension is really good and I just put the wrong design on it, then I'm going to start getting upset, right? Because it's going to fight you the whole time you're trying to take it out.
Sure. And that little extra half stitch that our stitch regulator puts on is not very fun at points when you're unpicking.
What do you mean? That gives us perfect stars.
I know it does, but it's not fun to get to the end. I got to usually break my big long string of line and have to start back over.
She's not right, guys. You want that. It's what gives you your points and your stars.
Oh, you do want it. Oh, yes, I do.
It is a plus. It's not being represented as a plus at the moment, but
it is a total plus until you have to unstitch.
And that's a really good point. Some of the best thing in the entire world, which I really think our stitch regulator is the best stitch regulator out there.
Yes.
The best thing in the entire world can sometimes be a con, guys.
Yes. Yeah. That's all. I want to have that con. I do want to have that con in my life.
Yeah. It's actually why
it challenges my game. It challenges Kathy's game of getting thread when you're unpicking around the finger. Can I make it to this point or not? And it's just a wiggle, 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 ding, 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 wiggle, 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 ding, ding. And okay, I made it. That's all.
Yeah. So now I have another song going in my head.
Wiggle,
wiggle, wiggle. Yeah. I've been watching way too many reels today. So sorry.
Oh. So, well, not everything needs to be picked out. There's some of the people in our world. I've heard of other long armers when they're custom quilting that when they just kind of work around it and keep on going and don't ever unpick. I mean, obviously tension issues, yes, but not design choice.
So if I throw the wrong design in somewhere and it looks okay, and I'm free motion quilting, I just throw that design in somewhere else and keep going.
Right.
So the beauty of free motion quilting is it's organic, right? So you can get away with that a little bit.
Yes.
You can't really do that with a computer.
No.
So, I mean,
right.
There's that side of it too. So yeah. And 90% of what I do now, or even more than that, I have not done a free motion quilting job in almost 2 years, probably. Not even for myself. I miss it.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. Yeah, I've kind of become what I never wanted to be.
Right. Welcome to the world of owning a business.
Yeah, it's worth it for many reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, when I first started quilting, all I wanted to do was free motion quilt. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want a computer, wasn't going to buy a computer, didn't want to look at the computers when I walked through the show, didn't want to, and I was a computer person, didn't want anything to do with those computers. And then when I decided to get one, I went down that rabbit hole fast.
I fought mine every step of the way. I never even thought about computerizing my system until I opened my showroom, and then I had to have one. And Angela,
you and I had many talks about it, Tracy, and I really thought it was going to sit underneath your long arm forever.
You were there for me every step of the way 8 years ago when I would text you.
Oh, well, I love you, and I want to be there for you.
All those words about how mad I was and how frustrated I was, and it won't do this, it won't do that. It's like, because I couldn't.
Well, and it was version 3.
Like a free motion quilter, so I had to learn. And I'm glad to say that my hate relationship with a computerized system is now much more love.
Yeah,
and only a little bit. Only a little tiny bit of hate, most love, and now I have 4 of them. So
there you go.
10 years from now, you're going to have 4 computerized systems.
I would have told you no.
I'd have thought they were coming from Mars.
My dream when I got that computerized system, well, it had to do with the realistic cow. Tracy knows that. We were talking one day, and a customer walked in and said, "I want you to put cows on my quilt." And I was like, "Okay." And I started showing him, like, cartoon. Or not cartoon, but comic book, not comic books either, coloring book pictures, right? And saying, what kind of cows? And she goes, no. I want it to look like a longhorn steer.
Oh.
And I went, back up. Like a realistic one? Like,
back up.
And I'm like, you want somebody who has a computer system. Like you don't want me to free motion that.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you say I want it to look like a cow, I mean, I'm going to get it to look kind of like a cow,
right?
But it's not going to be an exact drawing of a cow.
No.
So that's why I actually got a computer system, because I'm like, why am I turning customers away? Right? Because I can be, here's the dream. I can be free motioning on my Millie here, and I can have another system sitting behind me with a computer on it.
Giggle, 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 wiggle, giggle.
So I guess it kind of happened because, a couple months later, I had 5 machines and a quilt path. Actually, I had 2 quilt paths. But I'm like, yeah, no. No. And to this day, I still don't own a cow design.
That's funny.
Like, she's never asked for another one. She has come in. She's one of my best clients still to this day. And if she's listening, she knows who she is. There was only one cow quilt ever.
Wow.
It's not art because it was for her, for somebody who was at the University of Texas, I think it is the Longhorns.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's 1,500 miles for me. That's not
funny.
Like, I get a lot of things that want wolves on them, Tar Heels, Blue Devils, right? Because those are local.
Herbie Husker. I'm just kidding.
I have never had anyone ask me for Herbie Husker either, but I bet you have.
No, actually, there is not, because they are so, since that's a whole copyright thing. So, yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. If they want a wolf for the North Carolina State Wolf Pack, I'm not using the North Carolina wolf. I'm using a wolf, right? Tar Heels is something that I actually created a design for because it's a foot with a circle in it. It's not like I'm doing Ramses, which is the actual mascot. I'm doing what a Tar Heel is, right? So, it's, you do it, a Blue Devil, you use a devil, use blue thread, just telling you, it works every time. Blue Devil works. See? Yeah, so those are my the 3 big colleges in my area. Obviously, we also have, North Carolina has more colleges per capita than any other state. So, yeah.
Wow.
So, I think there's 10 or 15 colleges in Raleigh city limits.
Yeah, but you still bleed red. Oh, well.
Me?
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That's a joke here. You bleed red. The heart has red.
Okay, so this is when I tell you I will be watching the Nebraska game this week.
Colorado.
Because they're playing Colorado.
Yep.
And the coach for Colorado was in college with me at Florida State.
Bo Diddley.
Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm getting something in somebody else. But yeah.
So I'm rooting for Deion's team because that's what I've done forever. Sorry. But I'll be rooting against red.
I know. I was just kidding. Just trying to lighten up the situation.
What sport is this we're talking about?
Football. So, college football. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only thing in Nebraska, Tracy, is the Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
So
and it's funny thing is that I have watched a Cornhusker game with her family.
With Tracy's family? Oh, that's
your family.
Yeah, that is for sure.
So yeah.
I'm not from here, but it's all good.
I'm not from here. I'm not from there. So yeah, not my team. Like, I went to Florida State for a while. My husband obviously went to Georgia Tech. And then our other school only got a football team 2 years ago. The one that we actually graduated from together only got this, and it's a small school, right? So we watched Florida State football. We watched Georgia Tech football. Right.
But I did not watch football while I was unpicking.
No, I don't tend to watch movies. I'll listen to music and I'll listen to audiobooks, but I tend not to watch movies because I get engrossed in the movie and I don't watch what I'm doing.
Right.
Do you guys do like podcast when you're doing it, but not YouTube and stuff like that?
I just listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
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 If there's a video going, I'm going to watch the video and not pay attention to my hands.
And that's a bad thing.
It is when it's a customer quilt.
Take your time, move slow. Learn to love, Jack.
I'm squirreling and Kathy's pulling us back on topic. Normally, I'm the one that's pulling us back on topic and Kathy's over squirreling. When did that happen, Tracy?
Good.
I don't know.
Well, when you're picking, just be patient. Take a breath, breathe. This is a time to breathe, right? I tend not to breathe.
Necessary evil.
Yes.
It's a necessary evil.
Everybody has done it. We're going to all do it in the future. We're all going to do it again. So,
but don't rush, because trying to make it go faster is always going to happen. You're always going to get a hole. Always.
never tell your machine you're in a hurry, and never tell Jack the Ripper you're in a hurry.
Yeah.
Ever.
Good stuff. And on that note,
we'll have a good day.
Like,
Till next
subscribe.
time. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about it. Comment, please. Absolutely.
We're enjoying the comments.
So, and we're glad that you watched today, and we appreciate every single one of you.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies, have a fabulous rest of your day.
You
Have a
too.
good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.